Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hold on as I try to get my camera situated. I'm braiding my hair right now. I just made my own hair product, some shea butter, olive oil, aloe vera gel, coconut oil, and some lavender oil because I am still in this process of figuring out my hair. I just cut it off last year and it's to a length where now I need like real product to tame the beast. But no, I need product to help keep it moisturized. I've been having a hard time finding anything. So if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments, please. Someone did suggest to me not today, which I will try. But also, why are these products like 20 bucks? Somebody help. Today I wanted to come and talk to you all about life transitions, specifically transitioning between, I don't want to just say careers because it's not just careers, it's more so learning to own your life. So I'm in this place where I'm trying to, and I say trying because it's actively rewiring my brain every day to remind myself that this is my life and not anybody else's. So, and yes, this is how I partition my hair. But quick story. I grew up in a household that was pretty controlled, pretty conservative Christian. And I played soccer my whole life. So since I was 4 years old, I was on the soccer field. When I wasn't playing soccer, I was playing softball. When I wasn't playing softball, I was doing school. Needless to say, I did not have very many friends outside. I had a couple of friends that I would hang out, but my parents were also very strict, so I couldn't do a lot of sleepovers. And soccer, I was usually the only black girl. There was one other black girl and a mixed race girl. But you know, that doesn't mean you're always gonna be friends. But we was cool, not like we didn't like each other, but I never really felt like I fit in or belonged. It was nice to have a group, but I didn't really talk that much. I was really quiet. I was very serious as a kid, so soccer was fun, but also I was pretty good at it. So I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me to succeed. My parents had told me since I was a kid that I was going to college and that soccer was going to be the vehicle to pay for college. So there was a lot of pressure as a kid to succeed and do well. I was also pretty well rounded. My mom made sure of that. I was playing the piano at the time. I was also volunteering and part of different clubs in high school. So I was a very busy kid. I didn't really have a lot of downtime. But when I did, my downtime was my special time. My downtime is when I would listen to music. I had a whole catalog of music I would listen to. I remember I got my first MP3 player because I grew up listening to only gospel and Christian music, which wasn't bad, but I, again, had a hard time connecting to other kids because not very many kids are only listening to gospel music. So I didn't know what music everybody else was listening to. And then on my MP3 player, I remember I got it for Christmas. I was so excited. And what I could do is I could listen to the radio on my own time, and it had secular music. This was such a big deal to me. And the biggest perk of that MP3 player was that it could record songs. So I would record songs from the radio onto my MP3 player to save as downloaded songs so I could listen to later. This is how real it was for me. It was serious. I loved being on music, listening to different artists. SoundCloud was my vibe. Also LimeWire. If you know, you know. But music was my source. It was my safe place. It was my the world where I could feel and be seen and not have to explain myself. And it was a world like that belonged to me, uncontrolled by my parents or any other people for that matter. So music was always very sacred, very important to me. And when I had my time alone, I also loved to dance. And not many people know that. I love to dance. My mom worked in an elementary school and my dad worked for the state. So some days when I didn't have soccer practice, I would come home and I'd have the house to myself. And I had this stereo, almost like a boombox, if you know what that is. I had a stereo with a 5 CD changer in it, had a tape player in it, and it had the radio. And no, it couldn't play records. No, it couldn't play records. But my dad had a stash of CDs in his room. So nobody's home. I have this big boom box in my room. I would go get some of his CDs and I would play it loud, like booming in the house. And I would dance, I would sing, I would choreograph all this stuff. But whenever I heard somebody rolling up in the driveway, it all went down. Like, I shut off the boombox. I made sure I took the CD out. I put it exactly where I got it, so nobody could tell I have been listening, even though I'm sure they knew. Let's be honest here. And it was like my own secret world. I would even doodle in my notebooks and things like that. I would do mostly like bubble letters. Not a lot of drawing, because I was never that great of a drawer. I don't think. It's something I'm still working on. But yeah, that was like my world. Music and arts and dance was my own safe space that I couldn't really express or share with other people. Well, at least I didn't feel like I could, because it was secular music. And plus I was so busy with soccer. How am I gonna have time to do the arts? You know, I didn't feel safe enough to tell my parents that I wanted to do art. I didn't even think that was an option. I happened, like I said, been playing soccer and I was good at it. So about time college came around, I did go to school, but I did not get into the school I wanted to get into for soccer. So I actually ended up just going to school as a non-athletic student. I did walk onto the soccer team and I did earn my starting position. So it still felt like I was on the track. You know, I played soccer through college, I made good grades, and the dream that had been planted in my mind, which I was okay with at that time, was to become a professional soccer player. I had Mia Hamm all over my bedroom. Brianna Scurry, she was a goalie for the USA team back then. She was black. You know, I had all these. Mia Hamm was like 5 foot something. I'm 5 foot something, on the shorter side of the 5 feet. And this dream was very real. I felt I could achieve it. My parents made me believe I could. My dream school was University of North Carolina. They were the #1 soccer program in the country. I got into the #2 soccer program in the country at that time. So it was a very tangible dream. But when I decided to go to the Peace Corps and stop playing soccer, that dream died. I don't have any other way to put it. It completely died, crashed and burned. I was so burnt out. I was so tired of playing soccer. I was tired of being gone every weekend. I was tired of not being able to hang out with my friends. I was tired of missing things at school. I was tired of being tired. I was tired of working out. You know, all that stuff I have been doing for, what? Like I said, since 4. All that traveling. Ooh, this water. I was ready for a change. And somewhere along the line, I had learned about Peace Corps. I can't remember exactly where I learned about it, but it seemed like a very cool program. I mean, they pay for you to go abroad. You do some community work. At one point in my time, I thought I was going to become a professional volunteer. I have no idea what that really means. I just like helping people. And so I thought, okay, this is my chance to finally take ownership of my life and decide what I want to do. I was deciding between Peace Corps and going back to school, like continuing school to get my master's in urban planning. But I was so sick of school. I was so sick of the same routine. Soccer school, and I needed something drastically different. And Peace Corps presented that drastic change that I think I was craving. And like I said, it was the first time where I really was able to take ownership of my life. And it felt good. It felt like my decision. And I'm still grateful for that decision. Peace Corps taught me a lot. I mean, there's so many lessons I'm still learning that I learned in Peace Corps. If you're a Peace Corps volunteer, you know. It was also ghetto. I'll make another video about Peace Corps. That was a journey that I'm still processing. But when I came back to the States 3 years later, all I had was my degree, and I knew that I still enjoyed working with people. I enjoyed serving people. I enjoyed community work, but I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, I was 26 when I came back, and during that time, I felt that a lot of my friends they were in graduate school, they knew what direction they wanted to go, but I had no clue. And so I worked in the nonprofit sector. I've been in the nonprofit sector for about 8 years now, and just doing a variety of different jobs. I mean, I did life coaching at one point for young people who had just gotten out of juvenile detention. I helped with a college program for those same young people. What else? I did after school programming for elementary school students. I was a soccer coach, you know, just kind of all over the place. But I still wasn't sure like who I was or what I wanted to do. I had been playing soccer my whole life. And since I was no longer going after the dream of becoming a pro, because when I got back from the Peace Corps, y'all, I was out of shape. I told myself when I finished soccer in college, I said, I am never running again. I was so sick of it. So I convinced myself that I didn't need it. I didn't need to run. I don't need to lift weights ever again. Granted, I did play a little soccer while I was in the Dominican Republic, but yeah, I was done with it. However, when the pandemic hit, I decided to move back home, and still kind of lost. I had to go back. Well, actually, it started in the pandemic. I started growing a rooftop garden. I know a lot of people got into gardening during the pandemic, but for me, it felt like me going back to what I had always loved. Woo. Old soccer injury. My shoulder can't move as well as it used to without popping out. I was looking for this hair tie. Here it is. So I go back home, and there's this AmeriCorps program to be what they called a Farm Corps member. So they linked you up with different gardens across the city, and you work as an AmeriCorps member, basically volunteering your time, getting paid a little amount of money. But it gave me the experience of, oh yeah, I do love gardening. I do love being outside. You know, I just never really had that time to explore as much when I was playing soccer. And starting that AmeriCorps experience put me on this track of agriculture, which everybody was like, what? Agriculture? How did we get here, Kendra? But, you know, sometimes when you find something you like, people start to question, are you sure? You know, are you sure that's what you want to do? I mean, and they project these ideas of what they believe success should look like for you. And since I had been to college, you know, I have been to Peace Corps, I had been a director of a program before, they were like, you're doing AmeriCorps again? You know, like, what are you doing with your life? But once I finished that program, another job opened up for me, and I worked at a 3-acre farm. And I became the farm manager, basically, for this 3-acre farm. And I was managing a mixed breed herd, cows, chickens, goats, alpacas. Never had any experience with any of these animals, mind you. Okay, but this was a nonprofit, so if you know, you know. I'll make another video about nonprofits too, because oof, that's a tough industry. Sidebar. But I learned. And I learned how to reach out to other people who could help me. So there was an apiarist in Little Rock. She has her own business called Calm and Confidence. And she's a woman beekeeper, and she teaches people in the city how to have their own hive, how to be beekeepers. And so I talked to my supervisor, and we were able to hire her to come train me on the job. And I learned how to be a beekeeper. For the other animals, there was the woman and her husband who came to trim the nails of the goats. She told me, whenever you have a question, reach out and ask. So I did. Because again, I had never worked with these animals before. And so this took me in a path of questioning, right? Because I still didn't know, like, where do I fall in this world of agriculture? It's so big. You have agritourism, agribusiness, animal husbandry, so many different avenues. I mean, you can focus on bees alone. But I just wasn't sure what I exactly wanted to do. And with this uncertainty came a lot of curiosity. I tried not to get too caught up in the what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? Who am I? Which is very easy to do when you feel like your life has no direction and you're just kind of doing whatever the wind takes you. Somebody literally said that to me. They're like, you go wherever the wind takes you. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So yes, I do follow, like, the wind takes me somewhere, I sit and I see if it's for me or not. And I think that's also part of my learning style. I learn by doing. It's really hard for me to read something or hear about it and decide if that's what I want or not. And so I have to actively go out and do the thing to figure out if it's for me or not. But at this job, I did learn that I love working with animals. I learned that I also manage the pollinator garden and herb garden. I love planting. I love working with flowers. I love working with herbs. I'm not huge on beekeeping. I respect it, but it's not for me. And so going through this job was really an experience, another experience where I could try out these new skills, see what worked, what didn't work. Now, again, like I told you, people were just kind of confused about what was going on, how I ended up in agriculture. And I mean, there was really no clear direction when I first took that AmeriCorps position. I just knew it was something I was interested in since I was a kid. I remember the first plant, I think my dad got me a strawberry plant. We planted it in my yard. I remember thinking we're going to plant it in this area because the water drips off the gutters. It'll have automatic rainwater. I won't have to water it too much. It's not getting too much sun. I didn't know at that time strawberries need a lot of sun, but that was my first love, planting, being outside, working with learning plants, learning the names of trees, learning the names of what the trees look like without leaves, what the trees look like with leaves, what their leaves look like, all of these things. That's just why I naturally gravitated toward. But I didn't know at that age, I don't think my parents knew either, that was a whole field career. That's forestry. I didn't know that. I didn't know ecology was a field that I could go into. I knew there was environmental science, but again, my parents were very like trying to push me in a direction, and I understand. They were trying to push me in a direction where I could make money, because my mom was trying to convince me to become an environmental lawyer. And that's not, I thought about being a lawyer only for one reason, and it's because I like that they're pantsuits, and I always thought they looked sharp. But that's the only reason I thought about being a lawyer. I say all this to say because I'm still in a process of figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. I feel like a lot of us are. And I'm not really sure that we ever get to the end of that question. For me, it's been more of constantly figuring out, okay, well, I like this thing. Now, what direction do I go with it, right? So I've learned, because of this on-the-job experience, that I enjoy agriculture. I've learned that I enjoy working with flowers. I enjoy working with herbs. I've learned that I enjoy working with goats. Does that mean I want to be a veterinarian? No. I did think that was an option at one point, and I considered it, but I don't think traditional school works for my brain, and I don't want to go back right now. And if I did go back, I think it would be for something that I don't even know how I would use this, but it'd definitely be something for like ecology and spirituality or something like that. Because that's really what I'm interested in. I just like learning. But I think I started this video to really talk about how we have to really protect what it is that we want out of our own life, because a lot of people will project what they think it is that you should do with your life. And I am a case study in that. My boyfriend always messes with me, talks about my social science background. So yes, I am a case study. And that you don't really have to have it figured out. I mean, I feel like if you talk to older people, they tell you all the time that they do just making it up as they go. And what's that old phrase people always say, fake it till you make it? Now, I don't necessarily like that saying, because I was never good at faking it. But, you know, just try it out, see what happens, and go from there. That's been my philosophy. I'm just going to try it out. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. The end. Then we switch. But that's really all I kind of wanted to talk about, was that sometimes we have to go back to the things that we cherished. I talked a lot about loving art and music, and I also loved writing as a kid. And so going back to the things that I loved as a kid and finding ways to do those things as an adult really should be the medicine of how we figure out what we want to do in our lives. That's just one opinion, my one opinion. Because if I had listened to myself as a kid, sure, I could have tried to become a professional soccer player. I thought it was going to be fun. And then when I learned the reality of all of the workout, all the strain on my body, I had a not so great coach in college. And so learning to lose for 4 seasons. Actually, I only played 3 because I walked on in my sophomore year. So 3 seasons of losing is really hard. And after that, I just didn't have it in me. It wasn't fun anymore. And it wasn't fun because I liked playing and because my parents would come and cheer me on. But if I can't have fun and play without my parents being there, then, you know, that should have been a sign that this is not for me. But I know for a fact I can go outside and do some planting And that is where my heart lights up. I mean, I think you can see the smile on my face as I'm talking about it. Or I know I like to be outside and I like to give nature tours or teach people about different plants and their uses medicinally, or folklore about it, or mysticism, or the hard science. That I know I love because I used to study that as a kid. I used to observe trees. I used to touch the bark. I used to trace the leaves. You know, these are things that come natural to me. And sometimes I wish we allowed kids to do the things that come naturally to them. And I think we need to all allow ourselves more grace when we switch, because we don't have to explain anything to anybody. We are adults and we're allowed to have different careers, different versions of ourselves. This is a long life. And if you're listening to this and you need the encouragement, you know, if switching is what you need to do, then I highly encourage you to find a plan that works for you and your budget and your needs and your wants and your desires, and find a way to pivot, because that in itself is important. Pivoting into what will fill you up. I'm not gonna say it's gonna make you happy every day. I'm not gonna say it's the dream job. I don't really believe in dream jobs because I'm not dreaming about work. But finding something that you can show up to and be like, all right, I can do this for 8 hours or however long you have to work in a day, you know? And that's what agriculture, that's what urban ag has done for me. That's what nature education has done for me. That I can show up and say, okay, I can do this for 8 hours. Or art, doing my art. Okay, I can sit down and write or draw or create a video. And this gives me some life. You know, it should be mutually beneficial, but also mutually nourishing. I should be getting something from it just as it's getting something from me. And I really enjoy the book. Malidoma Somé is an ancestor now, but he has a book called The Wisdom of Africa. And in that book, he talks about how in the West, we go to work and it's this thing that we dread. But in like African society, work is this thing of art. Like people come together, they create and they craft and they produce something. And having that framework in my mind has shifted the way that I try to interact with work. And it also requires me to dig a little deeper, because if I'm at a job where I'm just performing and it's sucking my soul, then that's not me creating art. That's not me creating a product that I believe in or working with other people that I get along with. And I will say there's a lot of privilege in what I'm saying right now, just being able to switch and even think about leaving your job or switching directions in your life. There is a lot of privilege in that you might not have the time to think about that. You might have to do it because you're trying to provide for your family or provide for yourself, or et cetera, et cetera. So I do recognize that. But if I do also want to say, if you have the opportunity to take a moment, pause, and figure it out, what inspired you as a kid, what you can make money from, and it feel, again, mutually nourishing to you and the place that you're giving your time to, I highly encourage it. So I'll continue to share with you guys my journey into figuring out what it is that I like to do. Right now I am in nonprofit still, but this time I'm in an environmental organization. So I do talk to scientists, and I do talk to people who work in the field of ecology, who work with fire, land management, or forest management, or working with fresh water and rivers and streams, or ocean work. So I do get to have conversations with people like that to figure out, okay, what direction am I really interested in taking this next step in? I know I enjoy education, but how deep can I go into that? And I know I'm not going into a school system where I'm a full-time teacher because I don't have my degree in that, but how can I apply what I know and maneuver in a way that works for me? So this is my video about pivoting. I hope that you all enjoy it, or there's something that you can take away. If you have not, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.